So we can often play with actions that are not classic within the pose to trick us into moving in a way that will establish more grounding. And that way we learn. We move out of a place of ignorance. Now, Malasana is a squat position, and those of us that have knees that don't bend too well will use this second thin blanket for the back of the knees. So say, for instance, my knees are not receiving a bend well today. This is what it would look like. I would not be using the blocks so much as those who have knees that bend. I would be taking a forward extension like this. Watch, I would take a nice forward extension. I'd bring the blanket to the back of the knees, and then I would bend my legs until the blanket is established, and then I would use the blocks, right? If I am someone who has no issue with bending my knees, I would be taking a forward bend using the blocks, getting a greater extension of the chest, and then nesting the thighs against the ribs as I sit my buttock bones towards my heels, all right? So make sure, and it looks like, Barbara, you want to take your feet a little closer together. So that's the one thing that I would suggest to you to remember for those knees, is to make sure your feet are maybe 3 to 4 inches apart, because watch what happens with my legs. So if I'm here, all right, with the thigh bones coming straight out of my hip sockets, the knees easily line up, and you can see the distance between my feet. But once I start taking my knees further apart, then there comes in this kind of very strange thighs in, shins out. And it gets worse, right, as I take the feet out wider. So by taking the feet in, then they start to line up better. So keep that in mind, especially if you're working with trying to realign your legs. So you want those thighs to come straight down so the knees are directly over the middle of your foot. If you are a non-bending knee person, you have your blanket out back behind with a nice opening of your chest. Otherwise, your hands are on your hips. And my knee people are extending forward and letting the folded edge of the blanket come right behind the knees. Bend the knees. Let the blanket be caught, and then take the hands out with the blocks. Otherwise, you're in a nice forward bend, hands on the blocks. So just be straight-legged if you're doing your forward bend and no blanket. So straighten your legs if you're not working with a blanket behind your knees. Right? So now, so my non-blanketed people, ground the inner and outer heels, lift the front thigh strongly, extend the sternum out, lifting your chin away from the sternum. And as you exhale, keep reaching the outer hip crease back so you stay weighted in your heels. Let the thighs come into the front ribs. And as you begin to drop the sitting bones down, lift the knees up and see if you can extend your arms out. Good. Now the blanket ideally is receiving your heels. If your heels lifted, you may need to come back up and step off of your blanket, add a little height, and come up more. Now, if that was relatively easy, you can come back up and bring the inner edges of your feet together. All right, so let's do this one more time, adjusting it to your specifics. So have your standing forward bend. So if your feet are together, right, lift the front thigh strongly, extend out through your sternum, chin slightly away from your sternum. Exhale, slowly bring those outer hip creases back, bending the legs so you get a nice merge with the thighs to the ribs, ribs to the thighs, and sit down. Good. Extend the arms out. Lift your sternum up. Good. Nice. So for those of you that have knees that don't bend, if the one blanket is just not your friend and it's not working, you can take your feet off of the blanket, bend the legs, and take Utkatasana. Now, everyone is going to come back up by way of Utkatasana. So if you're still down here in Malasana, take your arms up and begin to ground the inner heels. Pause into Utkatasana. Good. Inhale. Tadasana. As you sweep your arms out. Nice. Okay. So those inner heels are very helpful for maintaining a clean action through the legs and also, to a certain extent, your balance. So prepare for a few of your typical standing poses. Triangle, Utthita Trikonasana, extended side angle, Utthita Parsvakonasana, and then a few others after that. Okay, so right now, with your hands on your outer hips, reach the inner elbows back and press down on the outer pelvis and begin to lift up strongly through the side body. Make sure your feet are parallel. Now, taking a nice wide stance with your feet, turn your feet to the right. Take your hand right to the top of the thigh bone and turn your right thigh to the right, really finding the outer right hip. So really turn your right thigh fully so the knee is over the midline of the foot. So really turn, 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 even if your left hip comes around, because this is your template. This is what you really want to work with. Reach strongly through your left heel, press into the pelvis. So you're lengthening the spine, and exhale, take the right thigh back, keep turning it to the right thigh back, turn it to the right thigh back, lengthen your spine, turn it to the right, and then slide your right hand down. Bring your right shoulder blade in, left elbow back, firm the thighs, and extend your left arm. Now, if it's a good day, find your head between your shoulders and take your gaze upwards. Plant the feet, inhale and come to stand. Turn your feet to parallel, hands to the outer hips, and again, lengthen upwards. Right? Almost like saltwater taffy. You're just stretching yourself upwards. So you can use that just with the arms, but actually add the action of planting your feet down and lengthening upwards from that rebound energy. Now turn your feet to the left. Take your hand to the top of the left thigh and turn the thigh to the left. Press the thigh back. Turn the thigh to the left. Press and lengthen the spine. Turn the thigh to the left. Make sure your left knee is over the midline of the foot. Lengthen the spine, reach to the right heel and continue out, out, out. Slide that left hand down the shin. Turn the chest by reaching your right elbow back. Lengthen the chest out using the force of the left thigh drawing up and back. And then straighten the right arm up. So expand through all four limbs and add the trunk, taking the sternum towards the chin. If you want to work further, you let the back of your head drop down towards the left shoulder and look up. See if you can spread the stretch through the entire body. So it's not just the left hamstring or just the back on the right side. Plant your feet, inhale, reach up through your right arm and come back to parallel. Walk or jump, inhale, Tadasana. So you can, again, you can leverage the spine, teach the spine to lengthen until the muscles on the core area of your body. All right, so you have all these lovely muscles in the abdominal region, muscles on the back body that can actually do that for you, right? But until such time, you can always use your arms to teach you that. You can also use your legs as you press down into the floor and lift the thighs. Right? That can be that rebound energy, like bouncing a tennis ball on the floor. The more energy you put into the pressure of throwing that tennis ball down, you might find that the tennis ball will pop back up. So let's take one more triangle pose without so much focus and see what integrated into the body. Starting stance, and just ground the feet. Draw the thighs and the chest upwards. Turn your feet to the right. Inhale, lengthen up again. Turn your right thigh to the right, outer right hip towards the left heel. Exhale, extend out. Turn your gaze upwards towards the ceiling. One more breath in. Balance out the pose between all four limbs and the extension of your trunk. Plant your feet, inhale, and come back up. And feet to parallel. Pause for a moment. Find your center, and then turn the feet to the left, heel to arch alignment, fully rotating that left thigh in the hip socket. That's your main starter. Inhale, lengthen up from the feet. Exhale, extend out over the left leg. Take your gaze upwards as you turn your abdomen towards the ceiling. And then inhale and come back up. Turn your feet to parallel. Jump or walk, feet back to Tadasana. Utthita Parsvakonasana. So here we are, our wide stance once again. As you lift your thighs as a result of planting your feet, notice if you do it for 3 times, see what you get. So you plant your feet a little. What do you get? Maybe a little bit of a lift of your kneecap. Plant a little bit more and hold that pressure down into the floor. Do you feel a more consistent, sustainable lift of your front thighs? And then press into the floor as much as you can. What happens? You probably tap out real quick. So therein lies that principle of the rebound energy. So find a sustainable pressure down into the feet and lift up, lengthen the spine. Turn your feet to the right here. Keep the outer right thigh turning as you bend your right leg into a square. Now here, this serves you in terms of, is the knee over the midline of the foot? Have you turned completely in the top of the right thigh? You have your hands here to adjust. So make sure that right knee is going back a little bit more, Barbara. If you can take it back a little bit more. Yes. Now, draw your right hand back towards your left thigh and just put your forearm on your thigh. Lift up and out through the right ribs and reach your left elbow back. Telescope your arm out in the line of the left leg and extend. Lift the inner left thigh as you press down into the ball mound of your left foot. Inhale and come up. Turn your feet to parallel. Plant the feet, lift your thighs, extend the chest. Turn your feet to your left now. Turn the top of the left thigh. Slowly bend the left leg into a square. So as you start to bend, you notice how it's more of a downward motion with your left thumb than a back towards the right heel motion. When you start to extend out, that's when the back towards the right heel motion occurs. Forearm to the thumb. Sweep your left knee back. Turn the abdomen up towards the ceiling. Telescope your right elbow up towards your ear and then your arm out fully. Inhale and come up. Turn your feet to parallel. Side step or jump. Tadasana. Again, telescope. Teach the body where it wants to go. Wide stance. This time we'll take our hand either back to the forearm or all the way down to the block. It's your choice. Integrating those movements in. Plant the feet, lengthen up through the thighs, the chest, out through the arms. Turn your feet to the right. Exhale. Right legs into a square. Extend out over the right leg. Hand to block or to forearm. Extend fully over the left ear with your left leg. Now squeeze the right leg into the right arm with your hands on the block. Take your right ribs under, your left ribs back, and lengthen out. Plant your feet, inhale, and come up. Feet to parallel. Regroup. Begin to grow up evenly from the soles of the feet in a sustainable manner. Extend out to the arms. Turn your feet, right foot in, left leg out, 90 degrees. Exhale, bend that left leg. Outer left hip towards the right heel. Bring your hand down to the block right next to your foot or forearm to thigh and sweep the right arm up and over. Turn your abdomen towards the ceiling. Outer right arm forward, inner right arm back. Sweep the left knee back. Turn the ribs to the right, so the left ribs come under. If you feel a little stuck in that back left hip, you can always take the left sitting bone forward. And then inhale. Reach back to the right arm. Come back to center. On an inhalation, you can jump or sidestep your feet back to Chandrasana. Oh, all right. So here, Virabhadrasana 1 has an opportunity to open the front hips now, rather than the inner groins. It has the action of Utkatasana. So have your palms at the back of the pelvis. As you bend the knees, draw the outer hip creases back. And once you get as far as you can, right, because Malasana does tend to open this front ankle and the back of the calf, right? Begin to descend the buttocks ledge down so you feel a hollowing of your abdomen. Now, inhale and come up. If you haven't moved your blocks off of your mat, go ahead and do so now. And take yourself to one end of your mat. So we're going to start in Utkatasana and then step back into Warrior One. Take the qualities of this front body moving towards the back body and the low position of the hips as you step way back into Warrior One. So you don't pop back up. You try and stay low. Round your right heel. Take your arms out to the side and turn your palms up, thumbs back. So just feel the expansion of your chest from the shoulder blades drawing in. So sweep the buttock flesh down and take your abdomen back to stretch and open that front left hip. And then bring your hands to your outer hips, lean out over your right thigh, and come in low, Utkatasana, stand in Tadasana. Take a few resting breaths. Hands to the hips, low Utkatasana. So feel a sense of the front body moving towards the back body. You're in your legs. You might be stopped by a stretch of your calf or a tightening of the front ankle. So you can play with moving the knees forward or back. And then standing in your left leg, reach way back with that right leg, 45-degree angle with the right foot. And then just bring your shoulders over your hips. Extend out through your arms, palms up, thumbs back. Expand the chest. Breathe. That's it. Good. And then hands to the hips, lean out over that left thigh. Bring your feet back into Utkatasana. And here we are. Let us take now Virabhadrasana 2. Virabhadrasana 2 is a very stable position in terms of the pelvis. It doesn't rotate like triangle or extended side angle. But it does require a bit of a movement of the ribs turning while the leg draws back. In other words, when we get into this pose, sometimes the chest moves in the direction of the bent leg. So we'll want to see if we can take, right, these ribs away while keeping the bent knee in place. So right now, starting stance, lengthen up through the trunk, extend out through the arms. Turn your left foot in, spin your right leg out 90 degrees. So again, it's important with that turn at the top of the right thigh. As you get more open across the pelvis, this outward rotation of the left leg will position your hip further back or further forward. So keep your right hand spinning the top of the right thigh. Make sure your right knee's over the midline of your right foot as you bend your right leg into a square. Okay. Now hold your right knee in place. Make sure it's over the midline or a little bit closer to the little toe side of your foot. Take your left hand into the left buttock flesh and draw it down. So have your right hand on your inner right knee or your inner right thigh. So you want to sweep the knee back. So Barbara, sweep your knee back. Yes, yes, exactly. And then turn your ribs to the left. Firm the left thigh back round through your left hand. Now straighten the arms out and look out of your right hand. Can you go deeper? Maybe it awakens too much of the effervescence of the inner groin. Inhale, straighten your right leg, turn your feet to parallel, lower your arms down, and expand and lengthen this chest. All right, right foot in, left leg out, 90 degrees. Turn the top of the left thigh, turn the top of the left thigh, turn the top of the left thigh. Feel how more and more that chest wants to go left with it. That's why I repeated it, because eventually it goes, oh, I'm all supposed to go left. Keep your right elbow reaching back. Slowly bend the left leg into a square and keep taking that thumb down, thumb down, thumb down. Turn the ribs to the right, left thigh to the left. If your knee goes out further than the heel of the foot, you lengthen your stance. Hold, encourage, cajole the inner left groins to open. So your knee is opening out a little bit more to the left. Good, Cassie, that's it. Turn the ribs to the right, reaching through your right elbow, and then stretch out through the arms and look over your left hand. Just feel the pose, be in the pose, surrender to it. Nice. Inhale, straighten your left leg, turn your feet to parallel. Side step, or you can inhale, jump. All right, now we're ready for the pose we've been working up towards, which requires a great deal of inner groin opening. So I think the poses gave us that, yes? I see some of you wondering what's going on here. All right. To find out what height of block you want to use for this next pose, it is somewhat telling where your forward bend is. So let us all take a standing forward bend and determine what height of block is giving you a gentle stretch in the hamstring. So with your feet planted, draw your abdomen in and up, Extend forward from the tops of your thighs, placing your palms on the block. Now, if you can go a little lower, maybe the medium block is more of your measure. So if you feel your knees involuntarily popping forward, you're probably better served with the higher block. So it's either going to be high or medium. If you happen to be someone who is more of an advanced practitioner and you can easily take your hands to the floor with a gentle stretch, you might be someone working this pose with a cupped hand on the floor. So those are the three positions. You'll only need one block for this pose, or none. Ardha Chandrasana. So Ardha Chandrasana comes from triangle pose. From triangle pose, we capture this movement of the reach of this left leg, right? And then as we go into extended side angle, we capture the reach of the right ribs and position ourselves stacked with the shoulders. Now, after I stack my shoulders, I look down at the floor, but I keep my left shoulder up and I take the block out in front of my little toe. And then I take as many steps as I need to come up onto this block, right? Now, I need a lot of lift in the inner thigh and a lot of extension through the heel. So as I plant the standing leg and I spin both legs outwards, I can expand the chest as we did by pressing on the outer hip, right? And there it is. Ideally, you come back down by way of your extended side angle into triangle, and then up you go. All right. So keep a light heart, and let's see how it plays out for you all. So, wide stance. Use your hands on your hips to lengthen the spine. And you can keep by good habit, because it is helpful to have your hand on the top of the thigh when you do this expansion, or you can keep it on your pelvis, either works. Now, extend out through your arms. Turn your feet to the right. Reach to the left heel strongly, lift up and out through the right ribs. Extend into Trikonasana. Bend the right leg, take your hand to the block. Left hand, left hip. Look down at the floor, but keep the left elbow reaching up and back. And take your block out, centered on your little toe. Reaching out through that arm, way out in front of the little toe. And you could also use a chair if you feel like that block is just way, 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 way too low. Now, you can step your left foot toward your right, any amount, till you feel as though the weight is transferred from your left foot into your right hand. Lift that left leg up high and reach to the heel. Reach to the ribs. Extend. And then bend your right leg and come down. Don't worry, we'll have a couple of ways to do this. All right, so for those of you wondering about the chair, how do I use a chair? The chair would be where the block is. Okay. Second side, take a nice wide stance. Plant your feet. So if you're going to use the chair would be behind your left leg. Extend, use your hands, extend. Yeah, so be behind your left leg. Now, turn your feet to the left. Inhale, lift and open your chest. Exhale, left thigh back, reach out over your left leg. Chandrasana. Nice move, Claudia. Now bring your right hand to your right hip. Then the left leg into a square. And now if you're using a chair rather than a block, you would take your hand to this far side of your chair and just slide it until your hand is in the middle of the chair, because you don't want your chair to move. And then push off the right foot and come up. Outwardly rotate the legs, so both legs are spinning to the left. And take the block out a little further, Claudia, so it's underneath. Oh, yeah, just a little further. Good. If you don't feel like you're getting a stretch in your hamstring, it might be a little high for you, Claudia, so you may want to just abandon the block. I always do better without a block. Stretch your right arm up. Lift the inner right groins. Reach to the heel. That's it. And then come back down the way you came up. Very good. Fantastic. All right, if you want to play a little bit with this, it's very fun to come up and come down. In other words, you might find a nice little pinpoint of balance playing with gravity. So just so you all know, I typically don't use a block because, like any good string instrument, if you've played them, a guitar or violin, usually the music is much better when you have a nice tension on the string. So when I go into Ardha Chandrasana, typically I don't use a block because I need some tension on the hamstring to keep me upright. So sometimes it, we'll do these practices where you go up and down until all of a sudden you just come up and feel weightless and you can expand. So if you find that your prop is a block, you can come up with you just keep the block in your hand, right? You go up and down and up and down and up and down. Now, if you're using a chair that's really difficult, so my suggestion to you, if you want to work a little deeper with the chair, is this. You find your Uttanasana, all right? And you take your hand to the center of the chair. Actually, I apologize. You keep your hands on either side of the chair. And you take one leg back and up, one leg back and up. You look up and out. And then you come back up and spin the hip, right? Both legs rotate outwards. Both legs rotate outwards. And then maybe you feel as though you can bring yourself here. So if that just doesn't work for your anatomy, you can always stay here with both hands stable on the ground. It may be a lot of work within the hips if you choose to do it that way, Barbara, but it is a great thing. But remember, both legs rotate outwards to give you stability in whatever variation you do. So, block people. We're going to go to the right. Take a nice wide stance. Block in hand, or no block if you're not using a block. Turn your feet to the right. Inhale, lift and open your chest. Exhale, reach out as if you're going into triangle pose. Bend your knee, left hand, left hip. And inhale and come up. And then exhale, come down. Inhale, come up. And exhale, come down. Third time, hopefully a charm, come up and expand fully into Ardha Chandrasana. Good. And then inhale and come back up. Block to the other hand. That's it. Turn your feet to the left now. Reach up and out through the limbs. Begin your Trikonasana to the left and then bend the left knee. Take your block out. Come up. Right hand, right hip. And then come back down. Come back up. Come down. Come back up. Expand through the limbs. Spin both thighs outwardly. Stretch up through your arm. Light as air. And then come back down and up. Let us go into wide leg forward bend. If you only need a single block for your head, great. Otherwise, bring another block in. Maybe use a chair. Parallel your feet. Start to draw the flesh of the back of the pelvis around. When you get to the top of the thighs, roll the inner thighs back. Let your hands slide down the shins and press shin into hand, hand into shin. Lengthen the sternum out, chin slightly away from the sternum. Then pull up on your shins to draw the spine downwards. Keep broadening out through the bend of the elbows to open the upper chest. So the collarbones move wider, the shoulder blades move wider, your neck drapes towards the floor. And then transfer the arms out as if you're doing downward dog. Five long, full, deep breaths. If it pinches in the shoulders by reaching your arms forward and out, then by all means, just bring your hands beneath your shoulder. Slowly begin to walk your hands back underneath your shoulders. Transfer the weight into the legs. Bring your hands to the tops of the thighs. Press your thighs back. Inhale and come up. Sidestep your feet back. Take Uttanasana. Bend the thighs. If you can come into Malasana, extending the arms out, maybe hugging your shins, rolling back onto the floor. Bringing your feet close to the buttock bones and take bridge pose. Lifting the back of the pelvis up towards the back of the knees and taking your hips towards your knees. Grab the outer edges of your mat and stretch the arms away from you. Exhale and lower down. So there's many manifestations of bridge pose. We can use bridge pose to strengthen the back of the pelvis. We can use it to strengthen the hamstrings. We can use it to open the front of the thighs. We can use it to stabilize your knees. One of the things that's helpful is it begins to build us up for shoulder balance. Now, if we hold the outer edges of the mat and begin to spin the triceps towards the midline of the body, you can begin to feel how the upper arm bones hit the mat more cleanly, and the center of the back of the arm is on the floor. Now, if you press the back of the arms down, you almost can feel that there's an involuntary lift of your back ribs up. Right? So when we exhale and press the heels down and the back of the arms down, then the back ribs will lift up, the hips will lift up. So when that happens, direct the hips out towards the knees, and you'll feel almost like your head is moving towards the trunk, like a turtle retracting its head. So let that happen on the exhalation. And on the inhalation, you can lift the side ribs up and towards the ears, and the sternum comes towards the chin, and it almost feels like you're lengthening your neck. So exhalation, there's shortening, and an inhalation, there's a lengthening. So let's do that for 5 rounds. So exhale, press the back of the arms down, the inner heels down, and lift your hips, lift your back ribs up. You'll feel a shortening of the neck perhaps. And then inhale, press into your feet again, taking the side ribs towards your ears, feeling a lengthening. So do that for 4 more times. And you may even feel a massaging-like quality of your shoulder blades, which can break up some of the frozen quality. So you're just rocking and rolling over those shoulder blades. So for those of us that feel like we can never quite get on top of our shoulders and shoulder balance, or even much higher in our high bridge or Viparita Karani. So I'm letting you do your counting. So when you're done, you exhale and come down and draw your knees towards your chest. So if you are someone who is not doing shoulder balance today, I'm going to recommend that you take either a bolster or 2 blocks and if the blocks bother your sacrum, what you can do is you can use a blanket over the 2 blocks. So if you have 2 medium blocks and a blanket to soften, you can create your own little bolster this way. But if you have a bolster, so much the better. All right. So for those of you that don't have a bolster, you can create one with 2 blocks, medium height, together, and a blanket. But if you do have a bolster, it's a better deal, right? So what you're going to do, my bolster people, is to Viparita Karani if you're not doing shoulder balance today. So I'm sitting here with my buttock bones almost falling off the far side of the bolster. And I'm lying over this bolster with my back ribs hitting the edge. Ah, yes, black on black. That was not well thought out here. So let me just put this. So here I have my buttock flesh on one side, and as I lie back, my shoulder blades touch the floor to where I feel solid on the shoulder blades, almost like that rolling that you felt in your bridge pose. And I want to press the back of the arms down just like before, so I get a lift in the back ribs. And then I keep the pelvis firmly planted down and the legs go up. So there's an extension up through the heels, the throat is very open, and I reach out through the fingertips, press the back of the arms down. I reach up through the heels, but I also have the back of the pelvis and the abdomen drawing down. And you stay here as long as you can support this without discomfort. You know, you want to work, but it's reasonably sustainable. And then when you're done, you take your feet down And you move in the direction of your head so that you take your feet together into a Baddha Konasana position. And then you'll Shavasana with your knees on the bolster. So that's for my bolster people and non-shoulder balance people. So if you're doing shoulder balance, go ahead on up. And see if you can find, you can go into plow pose first to find that balance of even weight between the right shoulder blade and the left shoulder blade, having the weight on the center of the back of the upper arms. And then as you get more open in the muscles behind the back body, near the shoulder blade, can you walk your hands lower towards your shoulder blades? Pressing the heels of the hands into the back ribs to bring the side ribs towards the ears. Everyone merge the inner legs together and press the front of the leg towards the back of the leg as you reach your heels up and spread your toes. Now, Kathy, you want to take your feet a little bit away from your face, and it should open your chest a little bit more. So take your feet further away from you. Take your feet away from you. So you want to move the front of the leg, your feet, away from your face more. More. More, more. So Kathy, move your legs away from your face. No, the other. Yes, there it is. Good. Use your exhalation to ground down, your inhalation to expand upwards. Now, if you're in shoulder balance, give yourself an opportunity to go into either Ekapada or plow pose. Ekapada meaning one leg. And now my Viparita Karani people, you can bend your knees, take your feet to the floor. Bring your feet to the floor if you're on a bolster. And then move yourself in the direction of your head until your whole back body's on the floor, and bring your feet together and your knees wide. And let the pit of the groin descend down and your abdomen to drop down. Palms are still up, back of the arms release. And now shoulder balance people, you can roll out of your shoulder balance slowly. And then move in such a way so the blankets are only underneath the back of your legs. Whether it's rotating your head towards the screen or some other inventive movement. Those of you using the bolster, make sure you give yourself some time to straighten the legs and let the back of the knees be supported on the bolster. Those of you who have been doing shoulder balance, if you have the room, stretch your arms out into a T, bend your knees toward your chest, and take Jatara Parivartanasana, a gentle twist to release the neck and the lower back. a luxurious deep breath in. Bend your knees one leg at a time and gently rock from side to side. Roll to your right, lying heavy there. And use your arms, slowly coming to sit up. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. And bow your head. Raise your head, gazing softly at